Good morning and welcome to this short presentation about the Absolute Beginner's Compendium. My name's Arthur McKeown and I want to tell you about some work that has been developed at the Belfast Unemployed Resource Centre for adult foreign learners. My purpose in the next few minutes is to give you some information about what you will find within the compendium and some options for how it might be used within your own classroom environment. I use this slide to establish some credentials and credibility for the approach that is used here based on the years I worked in English as a foreign language on 3 separate continents. The genesis of the approach lies in work done by Jeff Mohammed and his wife Sue and many other colleagues to develop an absolute beginner program in Tripoli, helping people acquire some of the language and then the skills needed for progression. The principles underlying the approach we have assume that you have to listen, then speak, then read, and then write. And everything is broken down into a way that helps people acquire the language they need gradually and using a low-tech approach. What we have been doing is currently documented in a series of 5 stages that are under development. Access to this will be available to those who are able to complete a training session from January 2017 onwards. In each of the lessons, which are highly structured but not necessarily mandatory, there are 8 principal elements that I will now go on to describe. But first, it's necessary to provide a sympathetic welcome, to provide a context and congenial atmosphere for what goes on. The first principal element is a dialogue to contextualize useful language that can be taken by the learners out into the wider world almost immediately after the lesson. For example, a little dialogue like, "Hello, how are you?" "Fine, thanks." "And you?" "Very well, thank you." The next stage is to provide half a dozen words or so in familiar topics that are high frequency and high in usefulness. And we have been able to take some benefit recently from making sure that the language we introduce stands up to the rigor of some recent developments in corpus linguistics. The next stage is to provide an opportunity for learners to talk in small groups using such language as they have about various pictures. This is just one example of Lurgan High Street, which is 100 yards from where the classes are currently held. There's then a short reading activity. In the initial stages, this involves some letters and letter recognition, both the name of the letter and its sound, and then numbers, then words, and then sentences. All of this is based on the language that has already been introduced and spoken many times through the dialogues and talk about activities. We also make brief mention and use the sight words that are first encountered when children are acquiring reading skills through things like the Ladybird Keywords Reading Scheme. And we do encourage some awareness of phonics so that people can build up some confidence in reading very simple texts from an early stage in the program. Writing, as with reading, follows the idea that nothing is written until it has been read many times, and that in turn has been spoken and listened to many times. There's a sequence of writing activities to practice lowercase, then uppercase, and alphabetical order with proportionality of the shapes of letters, and then numbers, words, and sentences. Finally, each lesson can finish with some sort of game or song. Our experience with the Syrians and the people from the Horn of Africa is that they do enjoy something which is lighter in tone and quite competitive. It's also, to practice months, possible to get them singing Happy Birthday, and we've some considerable success in using number, letter, and word bingo. Homework is an important part of the overall process to review what has been covered in each of the teaching sessions and to challenge people with some additional reading and writing activity. In our experience, it is done assiduously and well, and builds gradually into a portfolio of evidence of the language that has been acquired. Finally, as with welcomes, the goodbye section is brief but important. It can give an opportunity for them to talk about places where they are going and activities such as the cleaning, the cooking, and the collecting of children that seem to feature prominently in their lives. In all of this, our aspiration is to provide a progression route to colleges, local employability, and access to other English language practice opportunities and socializing opportunities available through organizations such as Embrace NI. In the next little video, I'm going to introduce a few of the tools and techniques with some of the tips and tricks that can be used to carry out the various activities in the different lessons. Finally, you'll be able to get more information about the Belfast programme and take part in the virtual community we are forming using Moodle at these links. I conclude with thanks, and I will of course be happy to answer any questions you may have either by email or when we next meet. Thank you and goodbye.